Hello, I'm Andy, and today I want to showcase how to play French in Deathmatch. So, French is quite interesting because they do have strong cav, strong late game, probably the best skirmishers and decent natives. Also, they do have artillery, but it is not that easy to get into the late game. I think they're a bit vulnerable during the boom. So let's get started. So first up, what I always do is I use one villager to build a church and the other one I use to build houses. I send 3 forward. It depends on who I play against. So for example against Germans or Ottoman you can't go too far forward because then you might just get rushed and overwhelmed. But in a mirror of course you can go to the middle. Also there are a few things you can go for an infantry start or for a cav start. Really both is viable and I don't think it doesn't matter too much in the end, so choose whatever you feel like is best. Yeah, let's get back to the build order. What you want to do is want to get into mercantilism as with all civilizations or with all build orders in Deathmatch basically. And then what you want to do is you want to send stonemasons first and then the riding or the fencing school depending on what you send first. And after that you can go for the other card, so the other train card, and maybe even for the engineering school. Then I typically, if I go cav, I always send the big cards for my units, which I mainly get first, so maybe some cav combat, maybe one wilderness warfare, and after that in factories or villages. The front really, what you want to do is you also, so typically what I do at the front is I use 2 villagers to build like racks and stables and stuff, and I use 1 to get the outpost. This means you typically always have an outpost when the fighting starts, and it's always like it's such a pain to deal with outposts in deathmatch, and they're so strong, so always something you want to do. And after that I typically just go into eco. So with my explorer what I always do is I build the town centers, and yeah, with the town centers you basically get the best boom. I usually don't use the explorer anymore to build the trading posts, just because I don't think it's worth it anymore. You can just send your native scout or your militia, get the flag, and then you can do the trading post. Okay, but enough about that. So basically you want to get your boom going with 3 TCs. You can use these couriers and of course the factories to accelerate the boom. And then what you want to do is you want to go for the, I would say, classical skirmisher boom type unit composition, and mixed in with some cannons. What you want to do is you always, like, you want to win the cannon fights, or the cavalry fights basically, and you also want to get some good shots with your cannons out. And if you can win the cannon fight, then you probably win the game. Yeah, you also don't want to leave your skirmishers overexposed to some cav, to some melee cav. That also, like, if you get cleaned up, that could be dangerous. Yeah. Also, what you also have the option to go for the gendarms. So in mid to late game you can transition into skirmisher gendarm, and this is a unit composition which is very powerful. And also if you notice, like if someone has low anti-cav like this here, you always get like 10 or 20 gendarmes to just clean up the army. If the other is not, like if the other player is not careful, then that might happen. Oh, that is an option. That's what I want to say basically. What you also have to keep in mind with French is, because you have 3 cards affecting natives. That means you basically have the best natives in the game. Like probably, but you definitely have top tier natives, like top 3 at least. Which means like if there are natives, you always want to get them, and with the natives you always win late game fights. And also that combined with the economy, so you only have 80 CDBs, but they are basically 100 villagers, which is so that means you have a more efficient economy. And so late game is really the place where you want to be as French. So I don't think you have to go super aggressive and finish the game early, because late game you are in a pretty good spot. So this is what basically you want to build for as French, want to build for the late game really. Yeah, so what is he also doing? Like these heavy cannons, I don't know, is banning them from the factory. What you can do is, because you have the engineering school, I guess I have them in the deck. Because you have the engineering school, that means, I think like in Deathmatch you can justify going for the heavy cannons in the factory if you have the engineering school. Just because they give you so much value. I mean, you can probably also justify it if you don't have it, just because they are so powerful, but if you have it, I think it's a good decision to just put one factory on the heavy cannon, basically. That can be really strong. So, but here, I kind of got cleaned up here on my... Like, I have some resources in the bank which I didn't spend. My cannons kind of were overexposed, I think. This army is just at the moment better because I only have skirmishers and he had a bit more cap. So he could clean me up. But I'm not too worried, to be honest, because without artillery or without mortars you really cannot push. So fighting under this tower here is bad for him in 9 out of 10 cases, so yeah, but I feel the pressure a bit here, and I also don't have a lot of coin. My economy is not very well set up, that's why I'm making these musketeers, because they are lighter on coin. Not something I typically want to do. I try to avoid making musketeers with tanks, except for maybe raiding. And then there's always like the panic mode, I guess, to just make pikemen. So this here, by the way, this was such a bad pop of my cavalry's. Like they running in front here, really not something you want to have. So all in all, pretty sloppy of me. So I feel the pressure. But then again, this army really isn't that big. So it should be fine for me, I think. Yeah. Also now I switched one factory to heavy cannons. And yeah, so I'm just a huge fanboy of these cannons. Heavy cannons. That's why I almost always try to make them. That here was not a good use of these heavy cannons. But it happens. So here I tried also to be sneaky with my villagers, so to just sneak around and actually... oh no, counter. And just get like a base here and raid. But it's not something you have to do, it's just like they hunted here and then they wanted to go around here, and usually if I notice that, just send them forward to try to get the base out. So this one here is again med cavalry pop. I think like if I didn't waste all my cavalries all the time in this game, I actually might have been in a decent position. I mean, I'm still in a decent position, but I could be in a winning position, I guess. But then again, he's also sometimes wasting his coverage, so that's also good for me. Yeah, at this point in the game, what you typically also want to do, so first off you want to get walled so you don't get braided easily, and secondly you want to get these trading posts, because these trading posts, 50 stagecoach, each one is like worth 3 or 4 villagers. And if you can get a line, you basically have 10 more economy. That can be the edge which wins you the game. And they are really dirt cheap at this point, because you always have some wood over, except if you sell it, of course. Yeah, so he really tries to finish it here. Yeah, one more thing I could have done here, I could have, like, if I felt even more pressured, like, I don't feel threatened too much. I mean, this army is annoying here, and it's also reasonably big, but it's not like he has this huge army, huge game-ending army, which I cannot kill. But like, if I would be in a worse position, what I could have done is just to make more towers, like here, just to have a position to fall back to. And that's also something to keep in mind as French. And just because your boom is a bit weak, you don't have the best start, that's something you often have to do, is to just tower up. And yeah, it depends. That's exactly how I feel all the time. Like, you sometimes you just have to tower up and boom up and defend, and then with French you often have the ability to just come back in the late game with the natives and with the good economy, the great skirmishers, and the gendarmes, of course. So that's really all there is. So your game plan with French is to get into the late game and utilize these very powerful units, maybe even the natives if the map allows for them, but you don't have to use the natives. But if you can utilize them, they are just like the best thing for French. Like, they have the best natives. Other than that, that's my deck. I don't think it's too special. In 101 you can swap out some cards for more unit cards, so maybe like 2 or 3 more unit cards. I typically just like my economy, so I do that. Yeah, maybe just 2 heavy cannons, maybe these cavalrins. I wouldn't use the covered wagon anymore. I just feel like the boom with the 10 villagers and the 3 TC is usually good enough. So yeah. So thanks for watching. I hope you have some success with French, and see you guys around. Bye bye.